Hello, welcome to the ANT1 TLC presentation, Care and Kin. Kinship and care are closely interrelated. That seems obvious to us, that parents, for example, care for children. That seems an obvious point. But on closer examination, it's not obvious at all. We need to understand the interrelationship between care and family at a deeper level. And we'll see in this presentation how using an anthropological perspective allows that. So by the end of this presentation, you should be able to analyze how biological relations matter in care, but that they aren't everything. For example, you can have a close biological relationship, but still experience little or no care. We also want to understand non-biological kin care. We're going to look at family who are adopted and a phenomenon that I call milk children. And we're also going to understand how care creates and shapes kin. You're familiar with this from the article I co-wrote with Win Arnita called Caring and Family, and also from Arnold on Salvadorian migrants. You might remember that the migrants who send more remittances are cared for more in the greetings from their parents in El Salvador. So clearly, care and kinship are intertwined. Your parents don't care for me and I don't care for them. We might care about each other, but we don't care for each other. Caring for is largely a family obligation. And this kind of informal care is organized by gender. Typically, women are expected to do more caring. A reciprocal economy, which means that caring is obligatory within the family, and it's organized along lines of the gift, which we'll get back to in week 3. And finally, it's organized in terms of kin, organized in relation to what counts as family. But as we will see, what counts as family and caring is partly biological. In other words, procreative parents play a big caring role in most mammal species. But in human society, the link is not always clear. And we know this from the mother's brother relationship. In many societies, the avuncular relationship, the relationship with your mother's brother, is one of care, and the one from your procreative father may not be caring at all. What this indicates to us is that what counts as family is cultural, not just nature. And what counts as family is also constituted through care. Now, to make that point, I'm going to use 3 case studies. The case studies I'm going to use are from my fieldwork on the Cocos Keeling Islands. These are islands owned by Australia, but they're closer to Indonesia. And if you want to find out more of them, you can go to my field notes here. The field notes are pretty rough, but they'll give you some more detail about what goes on there. So the Cocos Malays live there, and they have a phenomenon called Anak, child, Angkat, taken up childs. And this is, we can translate as adopted child. And we're going to see adoption is a form of kinship through care. Basically, Cocos Malays practice informal adoption, and it's widespread and accepted. It's not legally recognized under Australia law. So people, even though it's part of Australia, people don't bother filling out papers and so on. Nevertheless, it still is practiced. So there are no formal papers, but there are clear expectations. For example, the child may move between the biological or the procreative and the adoptive households. You have to allow that. But we'll see that kinship is created through care and it's not severed by adoption. So let's have a look at the example. This is from my field notes. Rahman and his wife Sinti have been trying for years to conceive a child without success. When I ran into Rahman during fieldwork, he told me that they had adopted a baby girl, Rubia, from their relatives Ma and Pa Nabila. This is Mrs. and Mr. Nabila. In keeping with the Cocos Malay custom, Rahman and Sinti now go by the name of Rubia. So Mr. Rubia and Mrs. Rubia. To give you another example, my name is Mr. Kiki on Cocos Islands because my daughter's name is Kiki, so I take her name. Names go up there instead of going down, if you like. So, back to Rahman and Sinti. They've adopted Rubia and they care for her 5 days a week, while her procreative parents, Mat and Pat Nabila, keep her for 2 days a week. So I spoke to Mat and Pat Nabila, the procreative parents. They made it clear to me that giving away their daughter was not a rejection of the daughter. Rather, they felt a deep compassion for Rahman and Sinti. In other words, Rahman and Sinti couldn't have children, and for the Cocos Malays, that's a terrible fate. And they wanted to share the joy of parenting with them. They emphasized, this is Mat Nabila, they loved both their daughters. They loved both daughters that they procreated, and they could never parted with Rubia if it meant losing her entirely. But since the two families lived just minutes apart, Rubia's care could be shared, and the gift felt natural to them. Now, why it wasn't nothing that made it easier for Mat and Pat Nabila to do it is that Mat Nabila, Mrs. Nabila, and Sinti are cousins. They are also milk sisters. And this brings us to the second case study, which is breastfeeding as kin making. Cocos Malay mothers often breastfeed children who are not biologically their own. A woman who breastfeeds such a child becomes a special kind of mother known as a matsusu, or milk mother. And some people told me that nursing another child like that, you can form a bond stronger than procreative parenthood. Talking about parenthood, you can see hear my child in the background. Anyway, stronger than procreative parenthood. You could say then it goes beyond biology, but in a sense, breastfeeding is biological too, because what could be more biological than the milk from one's breast going to a child? Some anthropologists think it's just simpler to forget the whole biological question at all and say that among humans at least, kinship is all about culture and not about nature. That's going to be for you to decide though if you want to go that far. Here's an example. Matdem, these are field notes I made when I was doing my research. This is what you'll have to do when you do field work too, is make notes as you go along, and you can click on this link and find more examples. Matdem told me she found out as a child that she had a breastfeeding mother, a matsusu. After giving birth, her biological mother had health problems and was taken to another island for medical care. So another woman had to breastfeed Matdem. After Matdem found out about this, she began addressing her breastfeeding mother simply as mum, ma. Similarly, she calls her breastfeeding mother's husband dad, pa. She does not use the formal term that she would normally use for an adult. Other people would address the couple as zal. Put another way, this husband and wife are related to Matdem because of the milk the wife shared with Matdem. The third case study is one you know from this week's reading. It's Cocos Islands again, and it's caring and family. The simple point from that long article is that Cocos Malays who wish to migrate back to the Cocos Islands from Borneo must be free of caring obligations in Borneo and ready to take up caring obligations on Cocos. So then they move back to Cocos, marry someone, and then they create family, firstly through marrying somebody, what's called this is called a final, or through marriage. Affinity is the proper word. Procreation, that's biological reproduction. Through adoption, which we call cultural reproduction maybe, I'm not sure what we want to call that. And breastfeeding, and I really don't know what we're going to call that. Is it biological, is it cultural? I'm not really sure. So in summary, caring for children by biological parents is partly natural, and at least partly cultural. For example, we know that biological fathers don't care for as much for their children in some avuncular relationships. A close kin relationship, what appears to us from the outside as close kin relationship, doesn't necessarily imply an obligation to care in these cultures. So the point here is that it's cultural. Care is also cultural. Non-biological connections can care as well. We know in the West, gay and lesbian adoptive parents can care for their adopted children. And in fact, care shapes and creates kin. Through caring, you adopt children. The caring is important here. The people who give up their child care for the childless couple. The childless couple then care for the child, and then the adopted child will care for them when they get older. Care creates milk children. You care for this young child and you want to share your breast milk with it. You become its milk mother and it becomes your milk child. And if you're a man, it's your wife who does it, but similarly, you become the milk father through your wife's breastfeeding. And as we know from the Caring and Family article, care shapes and creates kin because it shapes who and if you can marry. So what does this all mean? Kinship isn't about biology simply. It's also made real through care, and that care is cultural. So as we continue through TLC, we'll see that who gets cared for, who does the caring, and how these obligations shape lives. These are all deeply cultural and social.